All right. Hey, everyone. I am Charlie Shrem, and you are listening and watching Untold Stories, where twice a week I get to dive deep with some of crypto's most influential leaders to find out how this movement really came to be. And I'm really excited today because I'm joined with two people. I'm joined with John Sarson, the founder and CEO of Sarson Funds, and my good friend Jason Penner, who, Jason, I guess you're a partner at Sarson Funds, but you're also a good friend of mine, and we've known each other for such a long time. You're the chief visionary officer of the sanitation department in New York, and it's really a
That's true.
great role you have there. So thank. No, I'm just joking. Um, Sarson Funds is an independent provider of blockchain technology and cryptocurrency marketing and educational services. And from what I understand, you're a crossover between a financial advisor and hedge fund, and also education and marketing services. And it's a huge crossover. And from what I understand, there are not many companies in the space that do that. It's usually either or. Because when, you know, investors are investing in a fund or whatever, the fund managers don't really want to be dealing with the investors all the time. You just want to like manage the money and have a great day, you know? But now you're dealing with 10,000 members all the time, plus more. And I see you got, is that a fax machine behind you? Or I love the Bitcoin sticker. It's great. John, welcome to the show. Jason, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Charlie. It's so great to be here. I want to thank you for having us on. You've been a visionary in our industry for a long time, and you've really sponsored the entire cryptocurrency ecosystem in the United States, and we appreciate you more than we can express.
Thank you.
This is not a fax machine next to me. It's a laser printer. It's indicative of our Wall Street roots. We are a traditional brick and mortar Wall Street firm that's gone crypto. We've done lost our minds, Charlie.
What does that mean? I mean, because so for the past 15, you've been on Wall Street for 15 years and you have a lot of different experience. I was just looking, you worked at Guggenheim and Lord Abbott, and you've been on, CNBC, CNN Money. So, you've definitely like solidified your role in Wall Street. Why move to crypto?
Well, in 2015, when we first started dabbling in some Bitcoin, me and some of my trader buddies, uh, no one really knew enough about crypto to put any serious money behind it. We put in 1,000, we made another 1,000, not life-changing money, really. And we were afraid to put in life-changing money because we didn't really understand what Bitcoin or what cryptocurrency was. And like therein lies the reason why our firm was kind of birthed. And it's to bring education to investors so that they can be confident that this is not snake oil. These aren't tulip bulbs in Holland. There's a real value proposition in cryptocurrency and in Bitcoin, a durable value proposition, and an investable thesis. And so that's our big mission.
John, right now, can you find me someone who will not take Bitcoin to settle a debt anywhere in the world? If you owed someone $1 million worth of something, let's just say today, it's 2021. President Biden is being inaugurated today. Here we are in 2021 for posterity. Do you think there's anyone in the world at this point, or you think, okay, let's just say there's always going to be someone in the world, like a margin, but 80%, 8 out of 10 people, would you agree, if you speak to random 10 people, 8 out of 10 of them will say they would take Bitcoin to settle this payment, this debt?
Yes. I mean, I think that that's an easy question to answer. And Jason, I'll let you answer as well. But, another way I phrase that sometimes is, if I gave you Bitcoin, do you think you could turn it into money? And people, what do you think, Jason? Can people turn Bitcoin into money? Will people take it to settle a bet?
It's interesting you say, because I think this is kind of like a perspective shift of it, is where if you're saying that, I don't think that number would be that high. And I think the reason why it wouldn't be 8 out of 10, I think it'd be less than 5 out of 10.
Do you really?
Because of the education part of it, because I think there's enough people that are uncertain about it, that don't want to take the risk, that don't understand what they're doing, even if you're kind of like walk through the process. Charlie, we were just talking beforehand, and let me kind of share a story on the untold stories situation. Jesus, how many years ago? I don't even remember. It had to be
2014.
2014. right? It had to be a few $100s was a Bitcoin at that point. And, my core business is in real estate, and I had helped Charlie find an apartment, and Charlie wanted to pay the commission in Bitcoin. So I had to convince my firm at the time, and I said, listen, you should you should accept Bitcoin. And this is when I was back at Keller Williams. I've since moved on to Douglas Elliman and then some. But there was a whole thing. I got them to be set up with it. They were able to receive the Bitcoin, and at the time, it had to be, I don't know, what would you pay? Maybe close to 10 Bitcoins for what that commission was, somewhere in that range. And I said, please just hold on to it. As a firm, they didn't need that extra money. They did not listen. They ended up selling it off. So, and that's part of the problem is they go, okay, fine, I could get it and then turn it into cash. And John, like what you're saying is you can figure out how to turn it into cash. But what I'm saying is I don't think that the adoption or the comfort level is, I think there's so much more growth before we have to get there from where we're currently at right now. And I think we will get there, but it's just, this is why we're telling the stories.
2014, maybe like 1 out of 10 people would take it. And now you're looking at 5 or 6, which I guess I agree with. 8, maybe 8 is too bullish of me and 8 is too exciting, but it just means we have a lot more to go. And you're right. Like in the beginning, these companies like BitPay and Coinbase and others, when we would sell someone on accepting Bitcoin, remember that Holiday Inn we were working on getting Bitcoin set up with?
Yeah, weren't we supposed to have an account that paid residuals from them?
We never got, we set up that whole Holiday Inn with Bitcoin set up and we never got anything from it. But the point, like we were selling him on, Bitcoin is just a payment system, but you convert it into dollars or whatever you want. But now you don't have to do that because if you're convincing someone to accept Bitcoin in their hotel or whatever, more often than not, it's because they want to own Bitcoin now. And this is the best way for them to own Bitcoin. Earning Bitcoin is easier and better. And I've always told people, figure out a way to earn Bitcoin than buy Bitcoin. It works better.
This is what they're doing in Iran right now. The Iranian government would love to have some Bitcoin. And so they've said to the miners, you may go ahead and continue mining, but you must pay your electricity bills in Bitcoin to us. So the Iranian government is earning Bitcoin through selling electricity to crypto miners.
That's going to continue to grow. So, you're going to see corporations, governments start to own large amounts of Bitcoin. It's continuing to happen. And then also down the road, it'll be a potential, I think, of people starting to argue over the future of a cryptocurrency to a point where, like, if government A owns this amount and government B owns that amount, then they can debate between, which is why I don't think that proof of stake could be the best idea, down the road. Do you guys, changing the topics for a little bit, I brought up President Biden today, and there's a huge changeover now with the SEC and the CFTC and crypto regulation. What is Wall Street saying about that as it relates to crypto? Is Wall Street bullish on the regulatory landscape that crypto is about to go through in the next 4 years?
Well, I'll field that question, Charlie, since we spend the majority of our time dissecting and analyzing regulatory trends around cryptocurrency. We're a traditional Wall Street firm that's gone crypto, and we've gone to our clients and we said, hey, this is a new asset class. And we believe this not just because the Fed said so, but because of all the things you're pointing out about how people around the world are storing value in it and are using it as a medium of exchange. So the regulatory landscape is almost by definition a reactionary landscape, right? It's going to respond to what's happening in the market. So it's a second derivative of people's propensity to use and abuse cryptocurrencies. So regulations come after innovation, and this is what we're seeing. But we've seen the innovation now strike Wall Street. Now Wall Street needs consumer protections put in place so that they can package up crypto products and charge commissions on them. That's what Wall Street does. That's what Wall Street's always done. Wall Street has a new shiny toy in cryptocurrency, and they're going to ask the SEC to build guardrails so that they can package up their new shiny toy and charge commissions on it. It's going to happen. Wall Street's like a dog with a bone when it comes to making their bonus numbers. They're going to package this stuff up so they can charge commissions on it, and they need the complicit assistance of regulation and regulators to get it done.
This is why I like John.
Yeah.
John's got this invaluable insight that most people in crypto, they just come from, they don't come from that background.
The SEC works for Wall Street. The SEC works for Wall Street.
When did Wall Street, like, and I kind of wanted to find like what Wall Street is, and maybe you can help when you answer that question, like kind of define like what Wall Street is. But when did Wall Street wake up and say, hey, this is not something stupid, but this is something that we can package up and sell as a product to earn our commissions?
There was a lot of people that tried to wake Wall Street up. Mark Yusko, shouting at the top of his lungs. The old endowment manager from Wall Street. Mike Novogratz, a famous macro hedge fund manager, shouting at the top of his lungs. But it was Michael Saylor.
Yeah.
That woke up Wall Street at MicroStrategies when he bought $500 million worth of Bitcoin at $9,500. A trade on which he's up 4x on already and is doubled down, at 20,000, was another 600 million. That woke Wall Street up for some reason. We never really know, like, what is going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. It was MicroStrategies.
Why? What was so pivotal about what he did?
I think it was the all-in nature of it. He went all in one move. And
Wall Street is built around hedging against the world. You're hedging your bets. You're growing your assets, but at the same time, you try to grow a portfolio where if one goes up, the other one doesn't go down as much. And he was just this whole all-in nature just shook Wall Street up so crazy. You're like, what?
Yes, and his track record of being right. I mean, MicroStrategy is really just the Michael Saylor I've been right portfolio from telecom to internet to Bitcoin.
That's crazy. So how are institutions and high net worth individuals treating this bull run differently now than they did in 2017?
Well, the 2017's bull run lacked two important things that institutional investors needed. They need regulatory clarity and they need custody. And over the course of the past 3 years, the cryptocurrency industry has been very busy providing qualified custodial arrangements for exchanges now, like Gemini and Coinbase and Kraken offer custody services on exchange. And the regulators have been very busy clarifying the legal status of Bitcoin, including a January 4th announcement from the OCC that said all banks can service digital assets and they can issue stable coins and they can accept stable coins and they can be node validators. And this, in their opinion, is just an extension of the modernization of banking, which is happening not just in the United States, but around the world.
No one told my bank that because I got kicked out of my bank just the other day again. It's crazy.
And that's Charlie, is a function of your bank being behind the times. And
I know why it happened. I run so many non-crypto businesses and never had an issue with this bank. And I literally did one like $10,000 sale from an exchange into my account. And 4 days later, a letter got sent. 3 years with this same bank. Come on.
Charlie, how many banks have you been kicked out of?
27.
Really?
27.
What?
I can name.
How about you?
So I've not been kicked out of a single bank yet. I don't know.
Just one.
I have not.
I remember the days when I was walking. Sorry, John. I remember the days when I was walking around fucking Fifth Avenue with the incorporation documents of my company in my back pocket, walking around to the different banks, open up an account. And when I go to PNC to open up the account, by the time I got to Bank United, PNC would be shut down. And I got to here are my corporation documents, been instant, baby. Here's a check for $100,000. Let's go. Like, that's how we ran that business. It was crazy.
I would have begged you, Charlie. I would have begged the shit out of BitInstant. But the surviving companies now are dealing with this new framework. And we have Kaylin Long has launched a bank, a crypto bank in Wyoming, Avanti Bank. And so we'll be moving our business accounts to Avanti Bank. We're certainly not leaving them at JP Morgan where they currently are. JP Morgan has crypto ambitions. They believe their JP Morgan coin is going to become the intrabank settlement coin, much to the horror of Ripple investors. And they may well be interbank settlement coin of choice in the United States. It remains to be seen. But I can certainly tell you that my banking profits will be going to a cryptocurrency ecosystem bank like Avante Bank.
Yes, I completely agree with that. And now that there's so much money, like $500 billion industry with that we're in, there obviously needs to be $500 billion worth of other assets floating around somewhere in the U.S. and in the world, and those assets, some of them are going to need somewhere to bank, and these crypto banks that are licensed and regulated by the OCC in the U.S. are now going to get a lot of that business, and you will see crypto banks that have more assets under management and are just bigger than banks that you and I know of today that have stupid names.
Yeah,
27 of them that kicked me out.
Yeah, the United States banking architecture is not the envy of the world. It's very fractured with various like regulators at the state and federal level. Various levels of permission. It's the federal banks, the banks that end in the NA, that are under the charter of the OCC, the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, that just got the green light for crypto banking. And these are the biggest banks. This is Chase Bank. This is Wells Fargo Bank. This is Bank of America. These banks are green lighted. And again, going back to bankers making their bonuses, bankers don't get bonuses in a declining revenue, declining asset-based environment. So these banks need to attract assets, and they're going to do it on the back of this new $1 trillion industry.
Jason, you're one of the first people that I knew in New York when I was 20-something years old, getting into the space, back 2011, 2012. You're one of the first people that when we became friends, you instantly got it. And you instantly understood why this was important. And your message and vision has been steadfast and hasn't changed, even through my ups and downs and your ups and downs. Do you remember any early stories, or what was it about Bitcoin or the little crypto world that we had back then, or me, or anything that really clicked for you?
So I remember knowing of you before I met you, and especially I think it was Christoph and my brother who went to go meet you. And for some reason in my mind, I thought you were at the time, even some 40-year-old guy or something. Then I met you, I'm like, wait, what? Like, what's going on with this? I do remember kind of a pivotal time when we were, I think it was me and my brother Eric, and then we were with Chad and Emil's little brother, the ItBit, the Paxos guys.
That's what's crazy about that. Those guys that you introduced me to, Chad and Emil, they ended up becoming Chuck, the ItBit, Paxos, like the biggest people in the space.
Well, they were. I think they were doing ItBit. I don't know if they had launched ItBit at the time, but I remember oh yeah, we'll go next door to this the Bitcoin bar at EVR, and it was one of these where I'm sitting there, and I'm like, okay, I know these guys. I know the fact that there is something brewing here that is really special, and I don't think I understood how early on in the genesis that really was.
I feel like even back then we felt we were late, right? Like even back then we didn't realize how early on in the genesis that was. Like if we had started the businesses that we just talked about and didn't do anything, we would be very, very, very wealthy. Like we starting just a merged mining pool, Bitcoin mining and crypto mining, like script mining and PoolX.
We had PoolX. We had PoolX.
No, we had the best idea. And the idea was to do non-Bitcoin mining. If we did that, we could potentially be the largest non-Bitcoin miner in the world today. If we did that,
I don't even get me started. I was like, PoolX. Wait, who still has it? Did we lose that website?
No, I have the domain name somewhere. I have it somewhere. I forgot.
Charlie, I love that in 2014 you felt like you were already late to the game.
Yes,
that's so refreshing and encouraging. I get investors every day that. Their only reluctance, I've convinced, they've been convinced that Bitcoin is the future and cryptocurrency has got a real future in the world, but they're too late. They've missed it. Too late.
John, I don't think I ever told you a story, but Charlie, around that time, I forget who the Bitcoin guy was in my building at the Helena, but me and him had convinced my doorman at the time to buy Bitcoin at $8.
Oh my God.
My doorman.
I hope he bought some. I remember seeing Roger Ver talking about being too late. He's like, being too late to cryptocurrency. That's like saying you're too late to use the internet or to use the cell phone. there is no too late. Mass adoption and ubiquitous adoption is right around the corner.
It's just adding zeros, right? Like it's just zeros.
So let's talk about some of those zeros, because we talk a lot about the institutional money in America. And there is approximately $25 trillion of institutional money. And we talk about this when I tell clients they're not too late. And they say, well, Bitcoin's already gone from 10,000 to 40,000. They say, well, that might be the case, but we only see $50 billion of institutional money having been allocated so far.
How much?
50 billion, 50. It's mostly done through Coinbase custody. And so at $50 billion of exposure, that represents only one quarter of 1% of 25 trillion. What percentage of an asset allocation pie do you think that this new asset class will eventually command? What do you think, Charlie?
50% maybe?
Maybe mine and your portfolio. I think maybe 50%.
I thought you meant like what percentage of gold? What percentage of I've always been like a 30-30-30 guy. I always say like 30% in crypto, 30% real estate, and 30% like fiat and traditional type of assets that you live off of and stuff like that.
I think that's a very thoughtful way to approach asset allocation, and mine's not too dissimilar, honestly, personally.
Wait, what happens to the other 10%?
Oh, I don't know. It's just fun money. Moonshots.
Yeah, moonshots. Yeah, moonshots and pocket cash. I think when institutions are looking at an asset allocation pie, like international stocks are getting a slice, domestic stocks are getting a slice, and within that they're dividing it into tech stocks, and they're really kind of like Harry Markowitz, modern portfolio theory disciples. Like they're going to own a little bit of everything, and like they might overweight and underweight tactically. Great. Tactical global asset allocation is the name of the game when it comes to institutional asset allocation. But like cryptocurrencies, it's not going to be, in their minds anyway, like conservatively, like it's not going to be a 10% piece of their portfolio, but it might be, we think 2%. We think 2% would put it around where people have a lot of their precious metal exposure at around 2%. So if cryptocurrencies were to represent 2% in these institutional portfolios, well, 2% of 25 trillion is 500 billion. So we're at 50 billion now. So we are 10% of the way through the allocation in our TOKENIZED Sarson Funds.
Is that why like Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan predict a Bitcoin price, like peak around 150 to 250? Because that kind of goes in line with your $50 billion number. So that's where it all comes together.
Yep, they're looking at the amount of money that still has to move into the space. And it's enormous still.
And that's not accounting for like people divesting other assets really. But let me ask you a question too, because you mentioned precious metals. Are people really leaving precious metals, or is it more like the same thing where like, oh, one person gets polio from the vaccines, now all of a sudden we're all worried about it? Like, is it a one-off thing, or are people really leaving precious metals? Like, are people really worried about the future of gold? In my lifetime, will we see gold like become, for the first time in thousands of years, less of a thing instead of more of a thing? That's crazy to think about.
Well, it's a barbarian's relic, Charlie. So, I mean, I've sold gold coins and I've turned it into crypto. I used to have quite a few gold coins.
Same.
Same, you too. So at the margin, yes, it's reducing demand for precious metals. Is it going to cause gold to fall in price in an environment where the dollar is also falling in price? I'm not sure.
That's a very good point. So what you just said is not to a case where someone's like saying, I'm going to sell gold because I want crypto now. It's rather, I have this asset and I was going to put it into precious metals, but now I'm going to allocate some of it to digital gold instead, Bitcoin or crypto.
I think it lives in the same place in an investor's mind. So if they're going to be putting, in the hard asset bucket, if they're going to be putting, maybe historically they'll put 4% into gold, and now they're going to do 2% crypto, 2% gold, right?
Yeah, and so that's the 30% or the 10% or whatever, of like my portfolio. Like I moved away from precious metals, but then you have all that. You have real estate, right? Real estate is a super hard asset, illiquid asset, very illiquid unless you sell it, obviously. And there's holding costs, carrying costs, a lot of costs associated with holding real estate, and somewhat of an inefficient market, as we saw in the past year or two, how real estate prices were going up and everything like that. Jason, you're still very much in the real estate market. Do you see a future with like securitization, tokenization, representing, like percentages of buildings that now people can hold in their digital wallet and trade off each other?
Yeah, so let me touch on that for a second, right? So the big difference in real estate is the ability to easily leverage with the blessings of the banks. Like back in the day before the last collapse, you could get 95% LTV, maybe even 105% LTV. Nowadays, maybe it's closer to 80, 70% LTV. But there's a lot of
Where are you
debt
getting
that
that
comes.
high? I'm seeing 50, 60 maximum. Where are you seeing 80% LTV? Like
It,
for
it, it,
HELOCs and stuff like that?
it depends on the lender relationship. I would say 70, 75% is a little bit more in line. I'm just saying
I'm
we're
like
not at
bottom
90.
of the barrel.
Yeah,
I'm like
yeah.
the
Listen, in
worst.
2006,
Yeah, worst
you
recent
were able
payday
to get
loan.
105%. That was just insane. So it's the leverage portion of it. I mean, listen, that's like great. Let's go to BitMEX with 100 times leverage. Like there's there's a certain danger that comes along with it. But yeah, so as it kind of like melds into the space, I've talked to you both about a friend of mine or a client of mine has owned the St. Regis in Aspen, Colorado, and he launched Aspen Coin. So he took the hotel, a 5-star St. Regis hotel, and he securitized an equity portion, a minority equity portion of it, but securitize that, and then now that's being offered through T0. That's their first main asset-backed token that they're putting out there. And I'm not seeing necessarily the huge wide adoption. And what I think is maybe one of the first hurdles is when someone's thinking of cryptocurrencies, they're not thinking of something that's way more stable. Like it's not the dollar, it's not even gold in stability, but in terms of how real estate is moving, like you're kind of making that investment into it. I think it's a little bit early. I think the space will definitely grow a whole lot. I've had a lot of people approach me about doing exactly what you're alluding to, Charlie, which is, hey, let's take an office building or a rental building and let's securitize that, and then be able to offer out that equity portion to anyone who wants to buy these tokens. It's
Liquidity is
not the
everything, right? Liquidity is the most important word of the day. Liquidity is everything. And your real estate markets and Wall Street, and liquidity is everything. It's right. So if now you can
It's
have
early.
liquidity,
It's early. We're still early on in that. I'm not saying the real estate crypto hybrid is going to grow in the same way as from the early days of Bitcoin to now, but yes, it will add liquidity. And if you're able to have enough buy-in into that hybrid space, you then create enough liquidity to it, and in theory, you should also create a premium, right? If you're going to take an illiquid asset and then you're going to add the liquidity to it, that should in turn make it a little bit more valuable.
Absolutely.
I think you're right. I think you're right. And for the future, it's gonna be really, really crazy, because the next 2 years are gonna move faster than we've ever seen this industry move, and it's gonna be very, very, very scary, but also a lot of fun. We're getting time that I have to close up the show here, and I wanted to ask you, how can my listeners follow you guys, read your work, get involved, potentially invest, or become a member?
Charlie, yeah, thank you so much for having us on the show. We're big fans. We can be reached at sarsonfunds.com. And we help people build portfolios. We share ideas that we have from our research team on altcoins and DeFi projects. We are an inch wide and a mile deep into crypto. We help financial advisors understand crypto. We make hard copy educational brochures you can use with your parents and your financial advisor. And we'll help you any way we can. We want to help spread the gospel of cryptocurrency. Well, we are blessed to be able to share technology that empowers the disenfranchised and removes overhead from everyone's lives. And you can help us in our mission. We would love to have you.
Amazing. Thank you guys so much, and have a great day.